Okay, so we're back. For those of you wondering what the heck, OBS just crashed on me. So I'm just going to kind of continue from where we were and talk about the school. I think we need to go a little bit further past this. So we're just going to start with the school, because I'm not sure how much of that it catches. I know it records up to at least a certain point prior to the crash. So, school. They go to the school. And even though Spike has mentioned Moondancer twice up to this point in time, Twilight kind of remembers Moondancer on her own. Now, that's important, because as she's been going throughout the episode, she's been making a repeated point of how much she doesn't remember Minuet and the others, but mainly Minuet. Like, I must make it up to Minuet. Minuet's one of my friends, right? I must make it up to, what was her name again? But Moondancer she remembers on her own. Now that's interesting, because it also shows how she was the most connected to Moondancer, which implies two important things. And this is adamantly important for this episode. Important thing number one, it shows how... I know, the fact that she didn't remember Lyra at all is ridiculous. It shows how she got along better with Moondancer, specifically because both of them were geeks, were bookworms. But more importantly, it shows that the two had an actual connection. Allow me to use my own terminology here. Moondancer was closer to being an actual friend with Twilight and vice versa, whereas the others were buddies, right? Acquaintances. Nothing wrong with that, but not real friends. We've talked about this a lot in this particular series. We've talked about the difference between the layers, the gradients of friendship, right? Moondancer was further up on the gradient. And I think that goes both directions. Honestly, I think it didn't even occur to her, Savacom, because that was just her mentality. Twilight had a little bit of a I have to do everything by myself problem, even when she had a team to work with. That was true for like 2 full seasons. So, this then leads to them going to... hang on, I'm looking at my notes here. This then leads to them going to... Moondancer's house. Now, I mentioned earlier how everything's posh, rich-looking, fancy. It's Canterlot. It's the rich district. Her house is a dive. It's falling apart. It's literally cast in shadows. It's not kept up at all, and hasn't been kept up for a while. This, again, is why I mentioned the years thing I mentioned earlier. It has been some time since the first episode, and it's clear that she's kind of completely let everything go to pot since then. Now, that may sound like an overreaction. I've heard some people say it's overreaction. I completely disagree, but I want to address that later, so let's just save that for right now. Either way, she decided, piss on it. I'm just going to go ahead and live in my place, and bookstore home, and that's kind of like, that's all she does. So, this then leads to that bit where we actually see the flashback, literally the flashback from the first episode with the weird old music, which I complained about when we were doing the streamination on it. And, you know, hey, we're going over to Moondancers for the party. Nope. And yeah, that's probably the best flashback usage I've seen in this show. It's very excellently done. And yeah, again, that beautiful premise, that incredible creative writing of taking one random establishing scene whose only purpose was to show how, you know, Twilight doesn't need friends. She's just here to get work done. And that was its only purpose, and turning that into an entire thing. I love how they use that here. Context. Context is king when it comes to writing, and this is a brilliant usage of it. So, we have the library scenes. Shh. I'll admit that gag got me, because the escalating shush, you know, that was a good gag. But of course, the bubble of silence, and, you know, spelling yourself, magicking yourself into a book, that actually sounds pretty cool. That sounds like kind of a slightly poor man's version of a holodeck. That's very cool. And this then leads to Twilight finally having an inn to actually get along with Moondancer. Funnily enough, it's the same inn she had back in the day. They're both geeks. So they start talking about studying methods and old magic things, and Twilight takes her over to her old place. Side note, I forget who said it, but someone said it in chat. This is totally Celestia, right? I got an old tower, tons of books, valuable artifacts. Just ignore it, whatever. That is such a Celestia move. Anyways, she's got other things to deal with, right? She's busy. It was Imperial Star Destroyer. There you go. She's busy, right? She's very busy. You don't understand. She's got to go. She can't stay on Earth to help defeat Thanos. She's busy. Anyways. So she she goes back to that place, and there's this wonderful little tidbit where Moondancer is just admiring the place, and Twilight in the background has this moment where she's like, I never invited you over? And it's a really quiet thing, but she's physically cringing as she says that, as she's realizing that the one person she connected with most, she never even invited over. Just kind of layering, tacking on just how bad of a job she did at being a friend back in the day. And of course, here's this book. Thanks for enjoying the classics. I'm so glad it meant so much to you that you dropped it. And she's like, no, wait. Just hang on. Come hang out with us. Let's go to dinner. We can go to dinner, right? Okay, fine. By the way, really minor thing. I like how Moondancer occasionally adjusts her glasses with her magic. It's just a minor thing. I wanted to mention it. And then there's Starlight Glimmer. How apropos that in such a continuity-heavy episode, we have Starlight Glimmer in the diner. Because, of course, I freaking saw it. It was the first thing I saw. The color, they make a point of showing her, the top of her hair is visible. And she has really distinct color tone. The really deep purple with the really bright teal. And so it was just, boom! It's like, because I see colors, right? Especially distinct colors. And so it was just, boom! As soon as the scene started, I was like, there! Oh my god, she's right there! I've never seen that before. I'll go ahead and be honest. I didn't know she was there. I just wanted to comment on it. But the amusement to me is that, of course, in an M.A. Larson episode all about continuity, of course he'd put in Starlight Glimmer, right? Anyways, so she is spying. Interesting. I wonder how often she is there in the background. I've wanted to look that up, but I've decided not to. I'm just going to kind of pay attention. Because, yeah... Season 5 finale, which I do know. I do remember that. I do know where we're going with that. Anyways, so they talk about they're eating dinner, and what are you studying? Everything. Oh, by the way, you like how they have grilled carrots, literally grilled, like it's got the grill lines and everything. Anyways, I was gonna say, did I miss one up till now? I suppose I should ask that because I haven't seen her before this. So she's Hey, Mockingburns, I'm sorry. I hope you're not in the hospital. But either way, hospitals do suck, I agree. Well, some of them do. Some of them are awesome. Some of the staff can be real good. Nurses are great. What are you studying? Everything. Do you want to be a professor? No. Actually, I know someone like that in real life. I'm not going to give any specifics, but this person, it's a he. He's gone to college and gotten, I think, 6 separate degrees at this point. Now, no judgment. But I want to be clear, that's his life. That's his career, is going to college. He doesn't contribute other than going and learning more. And that, I mean, he and his wife are okay with that, I suppose. So, from what I understand. So I do, that's... My point is that feels like a little bit the kind of thing that you could take to an extreme, which is very apropos, because that's exactly what Moondancer's doing. What is she doing with her life? Well, she's studying. Okay. As with most things, I do think there is such a thing as taking something to an extreme. And I do think Moondancer was taking it to that extreme, and frankly, the gentleman in question, I think, has also taken it to an extreme. My opinion. There's nothing wrong with going and studying and learning. I mean, there's nothing wrong with loving studying and research. I love researching. I love learning new things. I eat knowledge up. It's soul food to me, right? But the idea of just studying and that's the rest of my life, I don't know. Either way, I do think that Moondancer would actually make an interesting, maybe not a professor, but you know what she would be? She would be an advisor. She would be the expert. Now, if you don't know what I mean by that, I think the technical term is advisory consultant or something like that. That kind of person is the person that world leaders and writers and directors and crafters and all those people will reach out to and say, hey, do you know about X? I need to know how X works for what I'm working on. Whether it's a public work project, or maybe it's some kind of political agenda, or maybe it's like a military thing or an engineering thing, or it's for fiction. It could be... Those kind of people exist. The experts exist. And reaching out to experts... I'm just saying, I think she would be a really good expert. Someone that people could reach out and say, hey, how does this work? Oh, thank you. My opinion. Please tell me I'm still live and we haven't crashed again. Okay, we haven't crashed again. I'll punch something if we do. Anyways. Yeah, Celestia could be like, I want to do this. Would this work out well? Is there another method? Like, you know... I don't know. Speech bubbles. Or silence bubbles. You know silence bubble spells. I want to research this for this thing. How does this... Yeah, like Sunburst will eventually be. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm the weirdo, but I think that kind of an expert advisor would be invaluable, and Twilight could get her connected. Now, Spike could get her connected to the people who could then reach out to her. And just... Right? And there you go. She doesn't have to interact with large numbers of people, because there's nothing wrong with being moderately antisocial. That's the wrong word. There's nothing wrong with being, I don't want to deal with large groups or crowds, right? There's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with, I don't like... You know, it's not antisocial. There's actually a better term, and I can't think of it from the top of my head. But there's nothing wrong with that within reason. But we could still have her connecting with people and still using all her knowledge to good. Introverted, thank you. There's nothing wrong with being introverted. There's nothing wrong with that. With it, connect with people, be an expert. I'm just saying. To my knowledge, Moondancer will never come up again. That sucks. This then leads to... I'm looking at my notes here. It's been a long time ago. She mentions flat out. Oh, asocial is different than antisocial. I'm not sure what asocial is then, in context. Because usually I hear it as antisocial, which is a problem. Looking at my notes. So there's the imagination scene where Twilight pictures what happened when she didn't show up at the party. And Minuet once again trying to cheer up the other person. Go figure. And Minuet, of course, already knows Pinkie Pie. This is when we hear that Minuet was Cadence's bride boy. By the way, there's a very brief flashback at the school. I'm sorry, I meant to talk about this at school, but then I crashed. Did you notice she had braces? This is what I mean when I talk about little flavoring continuity. Because you're probably thinking, well, what does that have to do with anything? Back in Pinkie's Pride, the episode with Cheese Sandwich with the Weird Al Yankovic, we saw Minuet, and she had braces. Love it! Anyways, so... moving on. Love it, love it. I love the attention to detail. Yeah, that is proper doodad placement. That is effectively what that is. Do I think that is what actually happened or just her imagination? I think it's just her imagination, but I think based on the information she has, I think that's pretty accurate to what happened. And it probably was actually a little more crushing than that. Minuet knows Pinkie Pie, Minuet knows the bridesmaid. Trail of books, there's the party set up for Moondancer, and I'm going to pause right here. Up until now, this was a red episode for me, which is very good, right? It's above average, above average, excuse me. But all of that's on the strength of the tight scripting, the creativity of it, the continuity, the connecting points between the characters, excellent drama. It's all been really good, right? How many of you, I've actually shared this story before, how many of you have put a lot of work and effort into something and set up the tables? I can picture the room. I've talked about this before. This was in college. I've set up the room, and I had the tables lined up, so there's plenty of